Welcome. So earlier we talked about CTE and YAMLs. Now we are going to actually be talking about DBT sources. So what are DBT sources? So a source is a reference declared as metadata in our YAML file. So the source will be able to, for example, enable us to reference our database, the schema, and then the actual source itself. So this will prevent us from hard coding references in code. So sources are pointers to the data loaded in your warehouse by external tools. Let's say, for example, you have your data that is loaded in your warehouse. With the help of sources, we'll be able to connect to that. So let's look at the DBT website to actually see how sources are defined and how they are being used. Then we'll also go to Snowflake to actually create our own source and then experiment using it in our models. So when you look at the DBT docs here, you see here they have this page here called add sources to your DAG. So this is how a source will be defined. So you have a YAML file nested under the sources key. So you have a sources key here, just like I told you about YAML. So if you've not watched YAML, you could go to the previous videos. So here you define the name of your source. And then when you define the name of your source, you could also define your database here. So, and then you could define the name of your schema, and then you could list the tables that you want to bring in. So you can see here, this is another source. So definitely if you have another source, and then these are other tables in this source. So generally this is how you define your source. So after defining your source like this, so in this section, you could see here how we define our source. Then this is how you reference the source. So you reference the source by using the source name. So for example, this one is a Jaffle shop. So you see it here. You use the name and then you provide the name of the table. So, and then this will reference that table in your DBT models. So you could see here, this is what it's going to compile into. So when you write it like this, in the compile section of your project, you're going to see that it's going to replace it with the actual reference to your database, your schema, and then the table. So we're going to create our own DBT source when we go to Snowflake now. So now we are in our Snowflake interface here. So you discover that we have a table here. So this is a table that I used to create some CTEs in the CTE video. So we have this table here. So if I go to the DBX directory, you could see that I have this table. So I could decide to use any of them. So let's use this. So I could place this in the editor. So let's see where we placed it. Let's keep our cursor here. So we have it placed here. So if we keep our cursor here, for example, we could place this in the editor like this. So any of this, we could use this to create sources. You see, we have like two tables here. So we have, this is the name of the database, and then this is the name of our schema, and then this is the name of the table. So using this format, we could use these two to create sources. So that's what we're going to be doing now. So in order to make it easy for us, let's go to this website and kind of like take this example. Then we just need to change it. So I'm just going to copy. You see, there is a model here. Just watch here. So in the models folder, we just need to create any file name of our choice. So file name.yaml. So, and then we need to put this file inside it. Then we're going to replace like the name of, we can put any name here. Then we can put our database as schema and then list the two tables that we have. So let's copy this and go do this. So now we are on our Visual Studio Code here. So within the models folder, I will just create something called my sources. And then I'm going to put .yaml. So within here, I'm just going to take that stuff that I copied. So basically version 2 is generally going to be there. So you have your sources. Within this source, then let's take this one out. So basically we'll use this one to list those two tables we saw. So let's go back and take these two descriptors of where our table, the sources of our tables are. So I'm going to take this one here. Then when we come here, I'm just going to put it here so that to help me in editing. So basically, so you see, this was the name of our database. So I'm just going to DBX. We can also make it lowercase as well. So we just need to put for database name DBX. So I could just type it DBX. And then for the name of our schema name is raw. And then for the name of our, this one, we could just call it, let's just give it a name called DBX source. So that's what I want to call it. And then for the name of the tables, we have two tables. We have orders, process orders, and products. So we could just take this. It doesn't really mean here. So we could just cut this and make sure that we put it here. And then for product, we could also put it here. You see? So let me just take this one out. It was just there to help me. So now you see, I've been able to define a source. Don't bother about this. This is just because of a plugin that I installed. So now I have my source here defined. So the next thing I need to do is now actually create models that will make use of these sources. So, and the way we do that is we come here and create. So we're going to create something called, we're just going to call it like product from source. So I'm just going to say product from source. And then I'm going to call it dot SQL. So because we're actually defining a model that will use those sources. So we need to do the same. So I'm just going to copy this one here, paste it again inside the model folder and edit. So I will rename it to, this one is going to be processed. So I'm just going to call it processed from source. So let me remove this area. So you could just, so now we have created two model files that are going to reference these sources. So let's see how we are going to do this. So now within our project now, so we're just going to write some select statement now. So basically what we will do is let's create a CTE just to make it look like we will normally want it to be. So we'll just say, for example, we give the CTE a name like PR underscore, let's just call it PRS. I'm just giving this simple name just because I want to, the basic thing here is for you to understand what we are doing. So we're going to do as, so we're just going to, so now is where we're going to run the select statement where we're going to use the source. So for example, I'm going to say like select, then star from. So the way you define the reference to the source is that you just do something like this. It's called Jinja syntax. So you do double, then you define the word source. So you see here. So I already have a plugin installed that could help me with that. It's called the, I think the DBT Power User also. So you could come here if you want to install. You could click here and type the word DBT. And then when you type the DBT, you could see the first one here. This DBT user for DBT core. I think this is the one I installed. You see it here. So when you have this installed, you will be, for example, be able to come here and just type the word source, and it will just give you your source. So now you want to put the name of your source here. So what was the name of our source in this YAML file? We call it DBT source. So this is what we want to put here. So we define the DBT source here. And then for the table name, we also put the name of the table name. So in the case of this, we have like, let's say process orders. It could be all lowercase also. So process orders. So we're going to put this one here. So we're just going to now, let's say select star from PRS underscore. So now I'm just going to take this one here and still put it on the other file so as to save time. So I'm just going to come here, and then within this one we have this product. So we're just going to paste this one here, and also the source name is actually the same. It's just the name of the table that is going to change. So we just go get the product table here, and then when we come to this product from source, we just need to make sure that we change this process orders to our product. And then this one we could just decide to call this one prod, and then we could call it here also prod. So let's see what will happen when we do dbt run, how our models are going to compile. So let me open my terminal here. So I'm going to open a new terminal. So because my project is actually, so my project is actually located in this folder called dbt new. So I'm going to do a cd to it. So in your own case, it might be different. So I'm going to do like cd to dbt new. And then here I'm going to do dbt run. So let's see what happens. So when we run the dbt run, so let's see. So I think there's an error here in the process .sql. I think we got this. Expected token this got this. So let's see where we got it wrong. I think we've added an extra one here. I guess so. So I think it's now fine. But we also did the same mistake here. So everything looks fine. So let's go do our dbt run again. So we do dbt run. and then it found 2 models and 2 sources, you see. So we have everything done. So it looks like completed successfully. So let's go find out what it has come. So the compiled version of our code will be found in this target folder. So in this target folder, I want to go to compile, and then here you can see the 2 SQL models that have been compiled. If you see here, look at what has happened. It has actually changed the select statement, although I'm supposed to use lowercase here. So it has actually changed this dbt.raw.process orders. It has replaced this syntax. So you see what we had here. We had something like this. It has replaced it with something like the exact name that was created in this model file. So let's go ahead to go to Snowflake to see exactly what we have in Snowflake. So in Snowflake now you see, so I'm now in Snowflake. So I can see here already that I have this process orders, but there's this process from source, you see. So this is actually what we created. This process from source. So if I go back to DBX and I go back to raw, you see here we have these process orders, but this one is process from source. So I paste it in the editor for you to see. See process raw.process from source, you see. And then we also have a product. So there's this product from source, you see. So we have it here. So product from source. So you see that the 2 tables have actually been materialized as tables. We will talk about materialization in our next video, but for now, this is all about DBT sources. So we've seen sources in actions, and when defining sources, we actually showed how to create models using those sources. Now we need to understand what models are, DBT models are. So what are models? Models are those SQL files you saw us create that are being materialized to views, tables, etc. Because there are other different types of materialization also, like the ephemeral materializations and the incremental materializations. Model can be referenced and used in other models as well. So models are stored in the models directory. You saw it in the VS Code that we created those models in the models directory. So look at the typical model here. So you have this CT here. So here you see, so we are just creating this model called, so the model name is actually gotten from the name of the file. So let's go see models in action. As you can see here, this is a CTE, and then we are doing a select here, doing our pre-processing here. And this, as long as this is stored in that SQL file, it could become a table or view depending on what we selected. So let's go see models in action. So these 2 examples we created here were all models. So these models were all referencing the sources. So the source is actually where we define our database, as we saw earlier. So now we are going to create a new model. So what we want to actually see is that, can we create a model that will reference these models that we've already created? So we just create a file here called new model, new_model. And then we're just going to put some YAML here. No, some SQL. So we say model ends with SQL. So this is our new model. So it's going to create a table. Note here, new model. When we go to Snowflake later, you see when we do a DBT run, this new model will be the name of the table that will be created for us. So the next thing we want to do here is we want to actually run our select statement. So we just say select. So let's say star from. Now I want to introduce something new. So if you remember, when we created the models, these other models using the sources, and when also we created models using the source, we're able to reference the sources here. So in this new model, we could decide to also reference the other model. So DBT also have this reference. So you see, it's coming from the power user for DBT core, the plugin I told you. So if you want it to have this kind of auto completion, you need to go install this add-on here. So you need to come here and install this add-on. So now we can just type the reference like this. So this is what they call Jinja syntax. So you see, and then we need to provide the name of our model. For example, the name of the other model. So we need to come here. So what's the name of your model? So the name of your model is the name of this file, process from source, product from source. So here I just start typing product, then from source. So we are going to do a DBT run to see how this is going to be compiled into. So what is going to compile into, you see, product from source. So this is a model. So basically we are just creating a model that just references the other model. So we could decide to do some pre-processing as well. We could decide to select some certain columns here. And then we could also even decide to do some certain aggregations here also, just like you do in normal SQL. But for now, this is okay. So let's just do our dbt run and see what happens. So here we are just going to type dbt run. So when we do our dbt run, we are going to now, we have 3 models found. You see, it dictated the new model that was found. You remember these 2 models were referencing our sources that we define in this YAML file. But this one is referencing a model itself. So now let's see exactly what happens here. So when we go to our compile, we see the new model here. So it's been compiled to this under the target folder, under compile, the name of our project, then models. So it's actually been compiled to this. So now when we look at the new model, the compile version, you see, it has actually replaced that definition. So it has replaced the whole of this part with what we now see here. You see, in the compile version. So, and then when we go to DBT, of course, we're going to see a table that is being created in the DBX database, in the raw schema, and this will be the name of the table that will be created. So next, we're going to be looking at model configuration. So we could actually, for example, configure these models. If you see here, for example, if we come to the project.yaml file at the end here, you see that all our models are being materialized as tables. We can as well say we want all our models to be views, so we can change this default configuration here. So let's go to the DBT docs to actually see the various ways in which we could configure our models. So I've decided to put things side by side here so that we could see. So if you look at the model configuration, so what can we do? So we can configure our model in the project file. So our project file is actually this file you saw that I just showed you. So the file at the end of our project, look at it here, dbt project. So this is the file. If you notice here, in this section in line number 32, we created the models. And then this is our resource part. So basically this could be like the name of the folder. So you could actually provide the name of the folder. And then you could decide which materialization, for example, the materialization should be table, or you could change it to like say view. Now all your models, if you try it as view, all your models will be created in Snowflake as view, for example. So this is one of the ways you could do that. So I will keep it at table here. Another way you could also kind of like modify the configuration of your model is by creating a property file. So a property file is created inside of your models directory. So within this models folder you see here, so we can create a file here. So we can, just like we created the file for the sources, we could also create a file. Maybe the file could be for all the models, or we could define it for a specific model, one file per specific model. So we could, for example, create a file here for new underscore model.yaml. And here, you see, so we've created this file for new underscore. So here we could just take this and put it here. And you see here we could put the name of our model name. So this could be new underscore model. And then within this materialization, so let's do this. So I'm going to take this one out. So when we have materialization here, we could decide to say we want this particular model to be materialized as a view. So you see, you could either do it by creating a new file here. This file must not necessarily have the same name as the name of your model, or you do it all the way in the project configuration file at the end of your project. So you could do it all the way here in this file, dbt-project.yaml, or you do it in the model folder by creating a property file. So that file is called a property file. So the last way you can also do it is by doing it in the config block. So we'll talk about the config block. So if you open this new model, the model file itself, the new model.sql, you could discover that on the top of this model, you see how we did reference. So DBT also have a way to define configuration within this file, within the model SQL file. And the same, what you could do is that you come to the top, and then all you need to do is type the word config if you are using this DBT plugin that I'm using. So you see this plugin, I will still show you again, this power user for DBT plugin. So you come to this section on your VS Code and you install it. So now you see by default, the configuration of our model here could be view, could be table. We could decide to also change it here and say, for example, it is view. So these are ways in which you could handle the configuration of your model. So you could either do it directly at the model itself by defining this config, or you could do it by creating a property file like we did here and define it like this. Then here you could not just add one model because this is a list. So this is a list. So you could add multiple models here. So you could create another model here, or you could do it in the dbt project.yaml where you have your project file. So this is all about models. In the next videos, we are going to be talking about basically about materializations, the various ways in which you could materialize your model. We've already done table. We've already seen how table and views work. Maybe we're going to talk about incremental materialization and ephemeral materialization. So thank you for listening. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel and also like so that others could see it as well. So thank you.